I love working with purpose-driven business owners who have like a mission, something that they're really passionate about, that you can really tell it is what they are on this planet to achieve. And what I do with them is I help them, essentially I'm helping them to love themselves and to really embody their self-worth. And as a result of that then creates magical results in their business. Like literally, they don't necessarily need to change any strategy or do anything different, but just the mere shift in the way that they see themselves enables them to suddenly create amazing results and the results that they were previously holding themselves back from.
Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen, to everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell. From the doctor saving lives at your local hospital, to the war veteran down the street who risked his life for our freedom, to the police officers and the firefighters who risked their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling. But there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer. The ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what? I can fix that. I can help people. I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world. Others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks on the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to The Hero Show. My name is Richard Matthews, and today I have the pleasure of having on the line Aimee Teesdale. Aimee, are you there?
Yes. Hey.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. Where are you coming in from today?
I'm calling in from a beautiful little island called Ibiza, which is just off the coast of Spain.
So how big of an island are we talking? Is it like a one house kind of island, or you got like a whole city there?
No cities on the island. They're just towns. So you can drive you could probably drive across the island in about 50 minutes. It's probably the length of time it would take you to go from one side of the island to the other.
So not too big. So do you have to go onto the mainland for anything, or do they got all the major essentials like groceries and all that stuff?
Yeah. We've got pretty much like most of the things that you need on the island. And then there's always Amazon for everything else, right?
Yeah, we've been to a few places in our travels where you had to take a ferry over to the island, and then they always talked about the islanders versus the mainlanders, and like having to take the ferry across to go, if you got to go to the doctor or something, you have to go into the mainland or whatnot.
We have all the basic, we have all the the essentials and pretty much everything you need. So you don't need to leave the island for anything.
That's cool. My for those of you who've been following along with my wife and I's travels as we go around doing this podcast, we are currently in South Carolina, enjoying the hot summer weather here, and we're staying at a friend's house for the U.S. Independence Day. So we were playing in the pool and shooting up fireworks over the weekend. That's when we're recording this. Is just over the July 4th holiday weekend, and Tuesday, I think, or a couple days after that. So let me do a quick introduction for you, Aimee, and then we'll dive into your story. So I got your notes over here. It says, Aimee Teesdale is a highly sought-after mindset coach, speaker, author, and champion for love. Using her transformational 5D method, she enables purpose-driven business owners to get out of their own way of success, become the person they want to be, and create the financial prosperity, freedom, and fulfillment their soul desires. So what I want to do real quick, Aimee, is why don't you start off with what you're known for, right? Who is it that you help? What do you do for them?
I love working with purpose-driven business owners who have like a mission, something that they're really passionate about, that you can really tell it is what they are on this planet to achieve. And what I do with them is I help them, essentially I'm helping them to love themselves and to really embody their self-worth. And as a result of that then creates magical results in their business. Like literally, they don't necessarily need to change any strategy or do anything different, but just the mere shift in the way that they see themselves enables them to suddenly create amazing results and the results that they were previously holding themselves back from.
And why do you think, why do you think the way someone views themselves impacts their output?
It's so important. Every action that we take based on how we see ourselves. And, if somebody thinks that they are not good enough, then that's going to have a huge influence on the actions that they take, why they take the actions, how effective they are at taking those actions, for example. And it just puts out a completely different resonance. Like, for example, I'm sure we've all come across salespeople who you can just tell that they are trying to sell you something and they don't really have any concern about whether the product meets your needs, right? And they might not necessarily say those words, but you can just feel it. You can feel the difference versus somebody who genuinely cares about your needs and really just wants to serve you and to make a difference to you. Those two people are obviously going to create hugely different results. And again, that is kind of come down to how they see themselves and what is really important to them.
Absolutely. And I know, like, one of those things that fits into the self-sabotage world, especially for entrepreneurs, is if they feel they don't deserve success, whether that's
100%.
client count or the income that comes with it, that they'll make decisions subconsciously that'll keep them from getting where they consciously want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And because they will, if they hold those kind of limiting beliefs or doubts about their worth or who they are, then that's going to really impact, their self-consciousness is going to get in the way. So, for example, let's say somebody's posting content out on Instagram, for example, and then they don't get the engagement that they are looking for. And then they take that personally, right? They make that mean something about themselves. And so that's then going to impact how they show up, if they continue to show up at all, right? And that's going to then obviously lead to the corresponding results. Whereas if that person knows that a lack of engagement or a lack of results doesn't mean anything about them, then they can just be focused on serving people and making a difference to people. And that's really what leads to success.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what I want to talk about then is how you got into this line of work. We talk about it as your origin story. Every good comic book hero has an origin story. It's where the thing that made them into the hero they are today. Were you born a hero? Were you bit by a radioactive spider that made you want to get into coaching and helping entrepreneurs? Or did you start a job and eventually, move over to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I have always had an interest, like a passion for psychology and personal development, even since when I was a teenager. And I studied psychology at university. And after university, I moved to London and got started on the very sort of typical corporate career path, right? Because I didn't know any different. I thought that was the only thing that was available to me. That was just what everybody else was doing. So that's what I went and did as well. But after a little while, it started to occur to me that there was a different way of living life. And I started to realize that I actually wanted to be my own boss. I wanted the freedom that came with being my own boss, and working for myself, and also doing something that I was actually passionate about, as opposed to doing something that I thought I needed to do. And so, that's when I started to realize that actually I wanted to be an entrepreneur and work for myself. And so then I started to think about, well, what is it that I am good at? What is it that I'm interested in? What have I already started to build up skills and knowledge and experience in? And it was clear that it was personal development and personal transformation, because by that point, I'd already started to go through a lot of my own transformation, because prior to that point, I'd never even believed that I could start my own business, right? And so that's why I'm now helping other entrepreneurs with their own beliefs, because I used to be somebody that used to think I could never have my own business, right? So, and yet here I am now. So I knew that was what I could help others with. So I started the business, and that in itself has been a really amazing journey. And that's how I came up against my own self-limiting beliefs and questioning my worth and questioning my ability to build a business and to be successful. And I was held back because of that for a long time, not realizing that was what was getting in my way, and not realizing that that's why I was always struggling to be successful. And it was only when all of this started to become apparent to me, and I started to realize that actually I didn't love myself deep down, and I didn't believe that I was worthy of success, that I then got to work on changing that, transforming that. And as soon as I did, everything that I just spent the last 10 years of my life striving for and trying to force to make happen just manifested almost like by magic. Well, it was by magic. And so that's what I love helping people to do for themselves.
So you said you started in a corporate world and then moved over to doing your own business. Did you start in the coaching space, or did you start in another space?
In my business or in the corporate? in the
in your
business.
business?
Yeah, I started in coaching directly. I knew that I wanted to be a coach. It just ticked all of my boxes. So I started, I had a part-time job whilst I started the business part-time. And then eventually, once the business had got going enough, then I was able to leave my part-time job and transition full-time.
So how was that transition for you to go from being someone who went to school and studied and lived in the corporate life and then had a boss and someone else to tell you what to do and had your schedule set for you, to becoming an entrepreneur where like everything's on your shoulders and like if you don't do the right work, you do it the right way, you don't get paid. Like how was that transition and how did you learn to manage that for people who are sort of in the same boat looking at making that transition?
Well, I think for me it was a fairly natural step actually, because I actually struggled more being in a corporate job where I was being told what to do, and I had there's a certain structure and there's a certain framework, and I actually always felt more nervous in that kind of environment because I was always questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what's expected of me? And I didn't enjoy that. So actually, when I transitioned into being my own boss and to working for myself and actually all being on me, I was actually more motivated by that, right? Because when I was in a corporate setting and it's like, you're getting paid the same amount, no matter how hard you work, then the mentality becomes, well, how can I do as little as possible and still get away with it? But when you're actually working for yourself and you're self-employed and there's no cap or limit on what you can earn, then all of a sudden my mindset became, oh great, how can I achieve as much as possible here? How can I really go for this? So I actually found the transition fairly natural, really.
Okay, cool. So what I want to talk about then is your superpowers in your business, right? Every iconic hero has what I call a superpower, whether that's a fancy flying suit or, a ability to call down thunder from the sky or super strength. In the real world, heroes have what I call a zone of genius, right? Which is either a skill or a set of skills that you were born with or developed over time that really set you apart and allow you to help your clients slay their villains, so to speak, and kind of top in their own journeys. So the way I like to frame it for people is if you look at all the skills you've developed over your life and over your business career, you probably have a common thread that sort of ties all of them together. And that common thread is where you find your superpower. What do you think your superpower is in your business?
Yeah, my superpower is being able to see quite clearly what is in a person's blind spot and what exactly it is that is holding a person back from achieving the success that they desire. I can just have a conversation with a person and get them talking a bit, and I will very quickly be able to diagnose what exactly is getting in the way of success. And as a result of that, then I can help them to shift it. And I've had some clients that have created amazing results after just one conversation with me. Like they've suddenly manifested like 2 new clients out of nowhere, or attracted some money out of nowhere. I've had clients that have, brought in an extra 6 figures of revenue. I've had a client that just recently 10x'd his revenue in just like a very short space of time, because that's my superpower, because I'm able to see very clearly what it is that's getting in their way and helping them to shift that.
So I'm curious how that works. Is that something that you developed, or is that something that you were just sort of born with, that sort of ability to see those things? And this might be a complicated question, but what does it look like to you to see something that someone else doesn't see?
So I would say it's developed over time. And the reason why it's developed over time is because I have put in the time and the energy and the practice into looking deep within myself. And so because I am a very self-aware person, because I spend a lot of time looking inwards and looking at my own thoughts and looking at my own mindset and looking at my own blind spots and looking at my own beliefs. And I've gone very, very deep into my own mindset and to find what my sort of unconscious core beliefs were. And so because I've gone to that depth with myself, that is what enables me to have the vision to see what it is, or to see the same with other people, right? So there's a quote in the coaching world that's that says you can only go as deep with the client as that you've been with yourself. And so because I've gone very deep with myself, I'm able to go very deep with my clients. And what does it look like? I guess what I am able to see is I'm just able to see how a person is constructing their reality, and how I'm able to see what a person's beliefs are. And as I said, how they're constructing reality, and how that reality, how that belief system is then creating their external reality, right? Because another key principle of my coaching is that we are creators of our own reality, and our beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. So if you hold a belief that you're not good enough or not worthy, then your external reality will mirror that back to you. Whereas if you shift the belief, if you believe that you are worthy, then again, the external reality will start to shift. And so that's what I'm able to see. I'm able to see how a person is constructing their internal reality, what their mindset is, what their beliefs are, and how that is then turning into the 3D reality.
Interesting, because it reminds me of my superpower is in the systems space. Like I can see the systems behind things, and so it allows me to do things like pick up skills really quickly, right? Because I can watch someone draw, for instance, and even if they're not teaching, I can see the things they're doing and like see the systems behind it. And picking up the piano really quickly, I pick up skills quickly because I can see the systems behind stuff. But anyways, it just sort of reminds me, it's like, because if you can see the system, like if you can see what's behind it, then you can, it's like, so one of the things I help clients with is I help them with building systems in their business. And so I can see like the decisions that they're making in their head on a subconscious level, right? Because the stuff that you've mastered, you don't make those decisions on a conscious basis, right? Because, that's not how it's done. But a lot of times when they go to sit down and like, okay, how am I going to get someone else to do this for me so I can build a system out of it? Is they skip a lot of the stuff that is second nature because they don't see those decisions on the surface level. So but being able to see those really helps them. So anyways, it's similar sort of way to look at it.
It is very similar. Yeah, you're right. And actually, like sometimes I use the analogy that our beliefs are kind of like software code. And so that's what I'm able to read. I'm able to read the software code of human beings' minds, and see how that is then manifesting itself into reality, and then how we can shift or rewrite some of that code so that they can start to then get the results that they would love.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to talk about the flip side then, right? So if your superpower is the ability to see someone's software code, the flip side of the superpower, of course, is the fatal flaw. Right. So like, every Superman has his kryptonite, and Wonder Woman can't remove her bracelets of victory without going mad. You probably have a flaw that's held you back in your business, something you've struggled with. For me, it was a couple of things, right? I struggled with perfectionism for a long time, which kept me from shipping product because I could always make it a little bit better and, do a little bit different. And then the reality is I wasn't making anything because I was shipping to clients. So I was doing nothing. So there's nothing to perfect, right? And one of the other ones I struggled with was lack of self-care, right? I didn't have good boundaries with my clients early on, and so I would work all the time and answer calls in the middle of the night kind of thing, and so that impacted my business, my ability to do great work for people. So, but I think more important than what the flaw is, how have you worked to rectify it? How have you worked to overcome it so that you can continue to get results and grow? And hopefully sharing will help our audience learn a little bit from you.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons why people work with me is because I'm able to help them to see what they can't see for themselves. That's what we call the blind spots. And the thing is, we all have blind spots. So I also have blind spots. I also will have beliefs or ways of seeing things or ways of thinking about things, which I am not necessarily able to see for myself, because we don't see our beliefs. We just think that that's the way that the world is, right? It's a bit like, beliefs are a bit like wearing a pair of glasses and then forgetting that you're wearing the glasses. Like, I'm sure you've had that experience, like you've got your glasses on your face and you're like, where are my glasses? And then like a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm wearing them, right? Well, that's exactly what our beliefs are.
What's even worse is when you're holding your toddler on your hip. You're like, where's the baby? You're like, oh, wait, I'm holding her.
Exactly. Like, we don't see our own beliefs. And so I need somebody to do for me what I do for my clients, right? I need somebody who can show me my blind spots. So the way that I get around that is by hiring coaches. I coach other people, and I will hire coaches to coach me so that they can show me what's in my blind spots. And I will also spend journaling as well, getting my thoughts out, getting my beliefs out, so that I can start to identify maybe what some of my beliefs are. Meditation as well, that will help. So yeah, that's how I.
So I have a question on the blind spots. So you hire coaches to help you see blind spots. What's one of your most memorable like aha moments with a coach where they revealed a blind spot to you that sort of changed your trajectory?
Oh, well, there was one time that I had been struggling to make money for a little while, and I kind of felt like I was on this sort of like desperate chase to try to make money, try to get the money in. And I couldn't understand why things weren't working. And I was kind of like just desperate to get some clients in, just so I could feel that it was working and to get some kind of sense of relief. And, I was constantly kept questioning, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And what she helped me to see was that I was just attached to the outcome, right? I was attached to the outcome. I thought that the reason why it wasn't working for me was because I didn't feel, as you said earlier, like I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was good enough yet, because I hadn't made as much money as I had wanted to in my business. And so I was letting money determine how worthy I felt, which is why I was desperate for the money to come in, to try to give myself a sense of worth and validation. And that was precisely the reason why it wasn't coming, right? When we get attached to an outcome, when we think that we need a certain thing to happen or to have a certain thing, then it's a lot harder for us to attract it into our lives. And so when I realized that, and I was like, wait a minute, I've already proven myself. I know I'm good enough. I've already made money and been successful in my business. As soon as I let that go, within less than a month afterwards, I had a 5-figure month. Like the money, it was just like somebody opened the door and the clients came in, basically. So that was a big breakthrough.
That's awesome. So I want to talk then about your clients and talk about what I call the common enemy, right? So every superhero has their arch nemesis, right? It's a thing that they constantly have to fight against in their world. And in the world of business, it takes on many forms, but generally speaking, we put it in the context of your clients, and it's a mindset or it's a flaw that you constantly have to fight to overcome so you can actually get them the results that they're coming to you for. Right. And so if when someone hired you and you could just, had a magic wand and bop each of your clients on the head and not have to fight that enemy anymore, what would you say your common enemy is with clients who hire you?
So I would say it's not so much of a thing with the clients that do actually hire me, because the clients that do hire me tend to have already gotten over this. But the clients that are thinking about working with me, or that could really benefit most from working with me, the thing that holds them back the most, I would say, is overemphasis on what they need to do and not enough emphasis on who they need to be, i.e. what they need to believe. And so a lot of people that might be struggling to grow their businesses might be thinking or asking, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? How do I do this? Or if only I had a strategy, if I only had an action plan, right? If I just got these steps, these actions, then everything would be sorted and perfect and everything would work. And I'm certainly not denying that strategy and action isn't important. Like, of course it is. But what really matters the most is how a person is being and who they're being and what they believe. And so, for example, you can have the perfect strategy, but like you said, if a person doesn't believe that they're worthy of success, then it's going to block all the results coming in, right? So that's and actually I had somebody say to me the other day, he said, well, if I was looking for a coach to help me make money, I wouldn't hire you. I'd hire somebody that can help me with strategy and specific specific expertise in that. And then the very next day, I had one of my clients take his business from 100K a month to 1 million a month in about 6 weeks. And I was like, are you sure you wouldn't hire me to help you make money? And it all just a shift in who he was being. You know, he didn't change his actions at all. It was just changing how he thought about himself. He let go of fear, let go of attachment, and that's when the magic happened.
So my curiosity in that spot is I have a mindset that I go through when I help clients build training courses. And I always tell them it's like this is like the invisible bookends you put on your training. And I call it the be, do, have, right? And so when you're teaching someone to do something, right, to change something in their life, you have to start off with where they are and then go to where they want to be. And I always coach my clients to talk about, you have to talk about who the client is, right? It's be, who they want to be, and then what they need to do, or what they have to do now that they don't want to, and what they want to have, right? And so it's a be, do, have, and it has to go in that order, right?
Yes.
If you just do, you won't have.
Yes, exactly.
So you have to start with the be. So who am I going to be, or who's your client going to be, and then what are they going to do, and that's how you're going to get the results they have.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing with my clients as well. I'm helping them to get the being element in alignment and get them to be who they need to be, and then from that, the rest can follow.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because when you're talking about coaching, and like getting somewhere in your life, you have to have all three of those categories. You have to sort of know, because if you don't really know what you want to have, it's really hard to get there, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't really know what you need to do, then it's really hard to get there. They all sort of build on each other. And that you hear a lot of coaches talk about, you have to know your why and that kind of stuff. And that's really it's knowing your why, I think is like the big category. You have to know who you want to be. You have to know what you want to do, and you have to know what you want to have. Like you have to have sort of all three of those things.
Yeah.
And I think people miss that a lot. So
yeah, absolutely.
So the flip side then of your common enemy is your driving force, right? So if your common enemy is what you fight against, your driving force is what you fight for, right? So just like Spider-Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save, Gotham, or Google fights to index and categorize all the world's information, I want to know what it is that you fight for in your business, your mission, so to speak.
Yeah. My mission is really just to help people to love themselves. Like that, I know it sounds a bit corny, but like that's really what it is all about for me, because there's so much damage and destruction that is done in the world, all just because people don't love themselves, right? And they judge themselves, or they think they're not worthy, and they're afraid of certain things. And it's just, and I often see people who, in the context of relationships, for example, like two people who love each other, but because they don't love themselves, that it causes problems in the relationship, for example. And I just feel that it's just so unnecessary. If only we just all knew that we were worthy of love, then the world would just be a completely different and amazing place. And that's my mission.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you really think about it, it's one of those things that everyone, it would change the world if everyone learned to love themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't get into religious stuff a lot on this podcast, but one of the things that I've always sort of believed is if you go back to, I think it's the Sermon on the Mount in Scripture, someone asks Christ, what's the greatest commandment, and he says, to love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor the way that you love yourself. And people forget that that's part of the commandment, to love yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Is part of it. And they leave that part out, and they think, I have to love someone else and I have to love God. And then they forget that, part of the requirement was to love yourself. That's like the basis of it.
Yes, exactly. It is. It's the foundation. It's actually hard to love other people. It's hard to love God if you don't love yourself. It's the foundation to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to shift gears sort of big time here and talk about some practical stuff, right? And I call this the hero's tool belt. And just like every hero has their, awesome gadgets like batarangs and web slingers, or, magical hammers that they can fly with, I don't talk about top 1 or 2 tools you couldn't live without in your business. Could be anything, from your notepad to your calendar to your marketing tools, something you actually use every day when you work with your clients. Something that you think is essential to getting your job done.
Mm-hmm. It has to be Zoom. Zoom and Wi-Fi, right? Those are the 2 tools that I literally could not live without. I mean, my business has been fully online for a good few years now. So like you, I'm very fortunate enough to be able to work from anywhere that there is Wi-Fi. If there's no Wi-Fi, then I can't work. And of course, Zoom as well. Like, what an amazing tool that we have, that I'm just able to connect with anyone from anywhere in the world and have a video call with them. If I didn't have those, yeah, exactly. If I didn't have those 2 things, then my business would be completely different. So yeah.
So here's my question for you. Are you excited about Elon Musk's Starlink, which is the satellite internet grid that they're setting up, that's coming out of beta sometime later this year? That's supposed to have like global internet. Doesn't matter where you go, you can get Wi-Fi.
Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that, actually, because I quite like the fact that there are some parts that you can go to where there isn't internet, right? Like, sometimes you need to be able to disconnect and shut off. I hope there's a way that, I'm sure that hopefully the'll be some Wi-Fi.
It'll have to be one of those, swiped out airplane mode.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. I know, like, I'm on the beta list for it because we travel in the RV, and I use a fancy commercial contraption that I can put like 4 different hotspot cards in. It's for like a tour bus. We use it here in the RV, and so I can get connection most of the time. But we still get to places where, like, I can't work. I'll have to drive into town to get Starbucks. And I was like, if I could take off that satellite TV dome that we never use on the top of our RV and put on one of the Starlink's, internet domes, which doesn't exist yet, but they have it on their roadmap to have done for truckers and yachts and RVs, hopefully sometime before the next year or so. I'm like, that would solve all of my internet problems.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. And the Zoom stuff is crazy. I know you mentioned you've been doing this for a few years, so you've been working virtually since before it was cool, so to speak. Yes, right? Same with me, because we've been traveling for several years. So my curiosity for you is, when everyone else started shifting virtual, A, how did that impact your business, and B, how often have you been hit up by people who knew you were already virtual to sort of help them make that transition?
I didn't really have anybody sort of reaching out for that, but what was the first question? I forgot the first question.
How was the transition? Yeah, how was the transition for you with everyone else going virtual? Did it impact your business much?
I would say if it impacted at all, then it would have helped it positively, because it would have meant that more and more people are used to working online now, because there was a point when there was no other choice, right? So whereas before that, I think it was still, whilst there were a lot of people that were used to doing meetings via Zoom and working with coaches online remotely, I think now it's become much more of the normal thing to do that. Whereas before, there would have, people would have still, perhaps there would have been a proportion of people that still wanted to meet face to face, for example, and wanted to meet in person, which I obviously don't do. And so, like I said, I think now what has happened is just that more people are open to doing it online and working with people online from anywhere.
It's because nowadays they want your coaching, but they don't want your COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we're all at. We want to meet online. Don't get close to me. You got to socially distance. Cracks me up.
And now, a quick word from our show's sponsor. Hey there, fellow podcaster. Having a weekly audio and video show on all the major online networks that builds your brand, creates fame, and drives sales for your business doesn't have to be hard. I know it feels that way because you've tried managing your show internally and realized how resource intensive it can be. You felt the pain of pouring 8 to 10 hours of work into just getting 1 hour of content published and promoted all over the place. You see the drain on your resources, but you do it anyways because you know how powerful it is. Heck, you've probably even tried some of those automated solutions and ended up with stuff that makes your brand look cheesy and cheap. That's not helping grow your business. Don't give up though. The struggle ends now. Introducing Push Button Podcasts, a done-for-you service that will help you get your show out every single week without you lifting a finger after you've pushed that stop record button. We handle everything else: uploading, editing, transcribing, writing, research, graphics, publication, and promotion, all done by real humans who know, understand, and care about your brand almost as much as you do. Empowered by our own proprietary technology, our team will let you get back to doing what you love while we handle the rest. Check us out at pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero for 10% off the lifetime of your service with us, and see the power of having an audio and video podcast growing and driving micro celebrity status and business in your niche without you having to lift more than a finger to push that stop record button. Again, that's pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero. See you there. And now, back to the Hero Show.
So I want to talk about some of your own personal heroes then, right? So just like, every hero has their mentors. Frodo had, Gandalf, Luke had Obi-Wan Kenobi, Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad, even Spider-Man had his Uncle Ben. Who were some of your heroes? Were they real-life mentors, speakers, authors, maybe peers who were a couple years ahead of you? And how important were they to what you've accomplished so far in your business?
So there's one particular person that really stands out for me, and her name is Jody, and she is a peer. So we met when we did a graduate scheme just after finishing university. And I always remember that at the beginning of the graduate scheme, she said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do when the graduate scheme has finished?" And I said, "I don't know yet. I haven't really thought about what I want for my career." And I said, "What about you?" And she said, "I'm going to start my own business." And I just looked at her, we were sort of like 21 at the time. And I just looked at her and I was like, what? I just couldn't understand how somebody so young, 21, just thought that she could go and start her own business. Because for me, for where I'm from and my background, starting your own business it just wasn't something that you did, certainly not at my age. And I just didn't really believe her. But sure enough, a year later, when the graduate scheme finished, she started her own business, which she turned into a very successful agency that she's now just recently sold. And she started other businesses as well alongside that. She writes for Forbes. She's an author also. And so she was really key for me. She was one of my heroes because she was the person that opened my eyes up to the possibility of having my own business and working for myself, because before meeting her, I just didn't even consider it as an option. Whereas she showed me that, actually you can do this, right? It is available to you if that's what you want. So, yeah. There were different set of rules. You didn't have to play by the play by the same set of rules that everyone else told you had to play by. That's right. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, second sort of follow-up question: if you went to her today and said, "Hey, did you know I consider you a hero?" Do you think she would say yes?
Yeah, I've told her.
So the reason I ask that is because most of the people in our lives that we look up to and have an impact on our lives, they don't always know that we consider them heroes. And what has struck me was one of my heroes actually said to me when I was younger. I was probably 18 or 19 at the time. He said, he's like, someday you're going to have kids and they're going to have heroes. And if you're not worthy, they won't pick you. And I always remember thinking that it was a really hardcore thing at the time for me to think about, that I needed to be the kind of person who was worthy of having influence and having respect and having those kind of things. And so it's always sort of in the back of my mind, impacting sort of how I make decisions and how I present myself to the world. Knowing that whether I know it or not, there's people who are going to be looking up to me and acting based on my example, right? So like you getting into the business world because of someone else's example. And so I've always sort of conscious of that example that I'm setting.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to talk then about your guiding principles, right? And one of the things that makes heroes heroic is that they live by a code. For instance, Batman never kills his enemies. He only ever puts them in Arkham Asylum. So as we wrap up the interview, I want to talk about top one, maybe two principles that you live your life by today. Maybe something you wish you knew when you first started out on your own hero's journey.
Okay. So the first thing that stands out for me is my guiding principle is love, right? So first of all, loving myself is number one, but also doing things that I love as well. So one of my guiding principles for how I grow my business is I'm not willing to do things that I don't love and enjoy just for the sake of making money and attracting clients. Like, I think a business, like, it should be fun. It should be enjoyable. I don't believe that there is one particular strategy that you must follow and you have to do that thing in order to be successful. I think the strategy that will work for you is the strategy that you enjoy doing and that you would enjoy doing it even if you didn't make money from it, basically, right? Because I think we all have our own way of expressing, we all have our own way of communicating to the world and sharing to the world our value. And so some people might enjoy doing that through Instagram posts, whereas some people might enjoy going to speak on stage, for example. And so it's really just about finding the strategy that you would love, and that's going to be the strategy that is most successful for you. So and coming back to the first point is just loving yourself unconditionally. So, even if you don't make clients or make any money one month, know that you're still worthy of money and clients, right? Just not being attached to the outcome and not needing a certain outcome in order for you to feel a certain way about yourself.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the thing you said about finding the strategy that works for you, right? And what's interesting is you mentioned earlier that you have to be your correct self before you can start figuring out the strategies. And one of the things that I've always found really fascinating with coaches is if the coach doesn't understand that point and they just coach on strategy, a lot of times they coach on strategies that either worked for them or strategies that worked for other clients. Yeah. And the problem with starting with the strategy is you haven't figured out what's actually going to energize the person, right? So for someone, I got one of my good friends works in the real estate space, and he coaches clients all the time on how to generate leads. And one of his things he talks about is like, there's just 18 different ways in real estate that you can generate leads. And for one guy, right, if you're talking to the broker, he's like, and he coaches you and he's like, hey, the way I built my business is I went door knocking, and I knocked on 3,000 doors a week for every week until I became a millionaire, kind of thing. And you're like, that's great, but it energized him. It was something that worked for him. And if it doesn't work for you, if it terrifies you and it turns your it saps your energy, it's not something that you're going to be able to consistently do. And there's lots of different things like strategies that you can try that will work if you can continually do them, and you can be excited in the morning to get up. Hey, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this again. Yeah. Because part of the success, like how you achieve success, is just slogging through the hard work. And so you have to have the strategy for the hard work that energizes you, because if it saps you of your energy, of your joy, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, 100%. It's so true. If you don't enjoy the thing that you're going to do, then it doesn't work, then you're just going to give up, and that's going to be why you don't create the results that you want, right? Whereas if you enjoy door knocking, then you're going to knock on those doors even if you get a no, right? It will be the passion and the enjoyment from it that you get that will have you keep going and persevering and keep showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's basically a wrap on our interview, but I do have one more thing I do with all of my guests before we wrap it, and that's a challenge that I call the Heroes Challenge. And it's simple. I do this basically to get access to stories I might not otherwise find, because not everyone is out looking to do podcast interviews, but lots of people have cool stories. So the question is this: do you have someone in your life or in your network that you think has a cool entrepreneurial story? Who are they? First names are fine. And why do you think they should come share their story on our show? First person that comes to mind for you.
The first person that comes to mind for me is the hero, Jodie Cole. She's Jodie Cook now. And the reason why I suggest her is because she's obviously been a very successful entrepreneur right from a very early age, multiple businesses, but she's also very passionate about what you're passionate about as well. So obviously your sort of message is about how entrepreneurs are always portrayed as the villain, for example. And so what Jodie's done is she's authored a series of books called Clever Tykes, which is really trying to shift this perspective of entrepreneurs being the bad guys, and it's for children, and to help children to see entrepreneurs and making money as actually a really positive thing, a really good thing. So, you know, she's created books that show entrepreneurs as being heroes instead of villains.
That's really cool. What did you say the book series was called?
It's called Clever Tykes.
Nice. I might have to, because I've got a bunch of clever tykes in my house, so I might have to pick up some of those books. And so we'll reach out after the show and see if we can get an introduction to Jody. Maybe get her to say yes, come on the show.
Cool.
But no, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it does, but we thank you for that. So in comic books, there's always the crowd of people at the end who are cheering and clapping for the hero's acts of heroism. Our analogous to that is we want to find out, where can people find you if they want your help? Right? Where can they light up the bat signal, so to speak, and say, hey, Aimee, I need your help. And the second part of that question is, who are the right types of people to actually raise their hand and ask for help?
Great question. So there are three main ways that a person can connect with me. So there's my website. That will obviously tell you a lot more about what it is that I do and how I can work with people. So that's AimeeCTeesdale.com. Then I'm also on Instagram. So my Instagram handle, I've just created a brand new one. It's Aimee.Teesdale. And then I also have a podcast. So my podcast is called Next Level Success. It's on Spotify, iTunes, whichever podcast player app you use. And in the podcast, you actually get to listen to me coaching real life entrepreneurs. So you get to listen in on how I exactly help them to get out of their own way of success and create the magical results that they would love. And so the ideal people that I work with are entrepreneurs. Maybe you're already established, maybe you're aspiring to be one or in the process of becoming one, and you have a passion, you have a vision for your life and a vision for how you want your business to be, but you just get a sense that you're holding yourself back in some way. You're not quite creating the results that you would love. Maybe you doubt yourself, procrastination, struggling with motivation, for example, self-sabotage. If you just get that sense that you're getting in your own way, then I am the woman that can help you, and I can help you to get out of your own way pretty rapidly.
So thank you so much for coming on, Aimee. I really appreciate it. And if you're listening to this and you're in that spot where you're looking to, maybe you think you're being held back by something you can't see, definitely take the time to reach out to Aimee, listen to her podcast, probably pick up a lot of cool stuff on that as well. We'll put the links to those down in the description for this show. And Aimee, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Do you have any final words of wisdom for my audience before I hit this stop record button?
Yeah, just my final words of wisdom would be to remember that the secret to success is self-love. That's my final words of wisdom. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here.